The king's citadel loomed under a gray autumn sky, its ancient stones whispering tales of duty and honor. Tourists swarmed the courtyard, their voices a dull roar, all eyes on the royal guards in their crimson tunics and towering black hats. Among them stood Guardsman Thomas Reed, his face carved from stone, his posture unyielding. Then, a flicker. A tiny girl in the crowd, her hazel eyes locked on him, raised a trembling hand to her ear and tugged twice. A secret signal. His heart skipped. What he did next shocked everyone watching. Smash that subscribe button and tell us where you're watching from. The king's citadel rose majestically from the heart of the capital, its spires piercing the overcast sky like the spears of forgotten kings. Built centuries ago as a fortress, it now served as a living monument, its golden gates and ivy-clad walls drawing millions each year. On this crisp October morning, the air carried the scent of damp leaves and chimney smoke, mingling with the murmur of the crowd, tourists snapping photos, vendors hawking trinkets, and the distant chime of a clock tower marking the hour. Among the throng was the Harper family, down from the northern hills for a rare city outing. David Harper, a wiry man with a love for history, regaled his children with tales of the Citadel's past, sieges, coronations, and the guards who stood as its silent sentinels. His wife Ellen clutched her scarf against the wind, her camera dangling from her neck as she captured the scene. Their son, 12-year-old Liam, fidgeted, more interested in the guards' rifles than their legacy. And then there was 8-year-old Clara, shy, thoughtful Clara, her auburn curls tucked under a woolen cap, her small hand gripping her father's sleeve. Clara had always been the quiet one, the dreamer who saw stories in the world around her. Today her hazel eyes sparkled with curiosity as she watched the royal guards. They stood like statues along the Citadel's grand plaza, their crimson tunics vivid against the gray stone, their black bearskin hats casting shadows over expressionless faces. She wondered about them, who they were beneath the uniforms, what they thought as they stood so still. Her father had told her they couldn't move or speak, no matter what happened. It seemed impossible. The family pressed closer to the railing, joining the crowd awaiting the changing of the guard. Clara clung to her father's hand, the bustle of strangers both exciting and overwhelming. The wind rustled the fallen leaves at her feet, and she smiled, imagining them as tiny soldiers marching across the cobblestones. For a moment, everything felt perfect, until a sudden wave of tourists surged forward, their voices rising, and Clara's hand slipped from her father's grasp. Clara stumbled, her small frame jostled by elbows and backpacks. She called out, "Daddy!" But her voice was swallowed by the crowd's clamor. Panic clawed at her chest as she spun around, searching for her family. Faces blurred, strangers laughing, pointing, oblivious to her distress. The Citadel's towering walls, once enchanting, now loomed like a cage. She backed against the railing, her breath hitching. Her parents were gone, lost in the sea of people. Tears stung her eyes, but she blinked them away, remembering her mother's words. "If you're ever lost, find someone safe, someone in a uniform." Her gaze darted to the guards. They were in uniform, but could they help? Weren't they forbidden to move? Across the plaza, Guardsman Thomas Reed stood at his post, his boots rooted to the stone, his rifle a steady weight against his shoulder. 2 hours into his shift, his body ached from stillness, but his mind remained sharp, trained to observe. The crowd was a familiar blur, tourists with cameras, children waving, the occasional heckler testing his resolve. He ignored it all, his hazel eyes fixed ahead. Then he saw her, a small girl in a green coat, her face pale with fear, pressed against the railing. She was alone, her eyes darting frantically. Thomas's pulse quickened. Something was wrong. He'd seen lost children before, but this one was different. She wasn't crying or shouting. She was watching him. Clara's heart pounded as she stared at the guard. He was so tall, so still, like a knight from one of her storybooks. She remembered a game her cousin had taught her, a secret signal for emergencies, something only the right person would notice. Trembling, she raised her hand to her ear and tugged twice, her eyes pleading with him to understand. Thomas caught the motion, a deliberate tug, repeated. It wasn't random. His training kicked in, years of military drills sharpening his instincts. Was it a signal? He'd heard of children using gestures to seek help discreetly, but here, amid the chaos of tourists, it seemed absurd. Yet her expression, wide-eyed, desperate, gnawed at him. He couldn't move, couldn't speak. Protocol was ironclad. Remain still, remain silent, embody the Citadel's unyielding strength. But Thomas was more than a symbol. He was a soldier, a father to a 6-year-old girl who loved his stories of duty. What if she were lost, staring at a stranger for help? The crowd churned around Clara. A man bumped into her, muttering an apology before turning away. A group of teens laughed nearby, their selfie sticks waving like flags. No one noticed her. She felt invisible, her hope fading. Had the guard seen her signal? His face hadn't changed, his body hadn't twitched. Maybe she'd imagined the flicker in his eyes. Thomas wrestled with himself. The clock tower showed 10 minutes until the guard change. 10 minutes too long for a child in distress. He could wait, let the ceremony cover any action, but her fear was palpable, radiating across the plaza. His boots felt heavier, the cold air sharper against his skin. Clara took a shaky step closer, her tiny hand clutching the railing. "Please," she whispered, her voice lost to the wind. She tugged her ear again, a silent prayer. That did it. Thomas couldn't ignore her any longer. His daughter's face flashed in his mind, her giggles, her trust. He had to act. In that heartbeat, Guardsman Thomas Reed made a choice. His eyes flicked to Clara's, a brief, forbidden glance that broke the wall of indifference he was trained to uphold. Her lips parted in surprise, hope sparking in her gaze. He'd seen her. He knew. But how to help? Stepping out of formation was unthinkable. Years of discipline screamed against it. The crowd would erupt. His superiors would reprimand him, and the Citadel's dignity might falter. Yet, doing nothing felt worse. Thomas scanned the plaza with his peripheral vision, his head still rigid. There, Sergeant Eliza Kane, a patrol officer he'd worked with before, stood 30 paces away, her blue uniform a beacon amid the chaos. She was sharp, attuned to the guard's subtle cues from years of joint duty. With a slow, deliberate breath, Thomas tilted his chin, a fraction of an inch, imperceptible to most. His boots clinked faintly against the cobblestones as he shifted his weight, a sound swallowed by the crowd's din. Eliza's head snapped toward him, her brow furrowing. She knew the guard's code. Any movement was a signal. Clara watched, her heart in her throat. The guard's eyes had moved, hadn't they? She wasn't sure. But then she saw a woman in blue weaving through the crowd, her steps purposeful. Relief battled with fear as the woman approached. "Little one," Eliza said softly, kneeling beside Clara. "Are you lost?" Clara nodded, tears spilling over. "I can't find my mummy and daddy." Eliza's voice was warm, steady. "We'll find them. What's your name?" "Clara Harper," she sniffled. "And your parents' names?" "David and Ellen." Eliza pressed her radio, murmuring details to her team. "Stay with me, Clara. We've got this." Back at his post, Thomas exhaled silently, the tension in his shoulders easing. He'd done it, helped without abandoning duty. His eyes returned forward, but he tracked Eliza and Clara in his periphery, ensuring she was safe. Eliza led Clara to a quieter corner, her hand gentle on the girl's shoulder. The crowd began to notice, a murmur rippling through as heads turned. "What's happening?" someone whispered. "Did the guard move?" Clara glanced back at Thomas, her small face glowing with gratitude. "Thank you," she mouthed, her words silent but clear. For a fleeting second, Thomas's lips twitched, a ghost of a smile, a crack in his stoic mask. It was gone as quickly as it came, but Clara saw it, and it warmed her like the sun breaking through clouds. Eliza's radio crackled. "We've got them, North Gate," a voice reported. Clara's parents had been searching, frantic, their shouts lost in the crowd until an officer spotted them. Minutes later, David and Ellen burst through the throng, their faces etched with panic and relief. "Clara!" Ellen cried, dropping to her knees to scoop her daughter into her arms. David joined them, his arms encircling his family. "How did you find her?" David asked, breathless, as Eliza stood nearby. She nodded toward Thomas. "The guard saw she was in trouble. He signaled me." Ellen looked up, tears streaming. "Thank you! Oh, thank you!" Thomas stood motionless, but his chest tightened. He gave a slight nod, the smallest gesture, yet it carried the weight of their gratitude. The crowd buzzed, some clapping, others filming. "Did you see that?" a woman gasped. "He moved for her." The moment became a story, a ripple of awe spreading through the plaza. As the Harpers clung to each other, the tension dissolved into a quiet joy. Clara nestled against her mother, her fear replaced by the comfort of familiar arms. The Citadel's plaza, moments ago a maze of chaos, now felt like a sanctuary. David wiped his eyes, turning to Eliza. "We thought we'd lost her for good. How can we thank him?" Eliza smiled. "He's on duty, but I'll pass it along. He's one of the good ones." Clara tugged her father's sleeve. "Daddy, can I give him something?" "What do you have in mind, sweetheart?" Ellen asked. Clara dug into her coat pocket, pulling out a crumpled sketch, a child's drawing of a guard in red, standing tall. "I made this earlier, for him." David chuckled, ruffling her hair. "Let's see if we can get it to him." They approached Eliza, who took the drawing with a nod. "I'll make sure he gets it, Clara. He'll love it." As the family lingered, the changing of the guard began, boots stomping in unison, rifles glinting. Thomas was relieved by another soldier, his shift ending just as the crowd's attention shifted. But the story of his actions lingered, whispered among tourists and locals alike. Later, in the guards' quarters, Thomas sat on a bench, his tunic unbuttoned, the weight of duty lifted for a moment. Eliza appeared, holding Clara's drawing. "From the girl you helped," she said, handing it over. "Her family says you're their hero." Thomas unfolded the paper, studying the wobbly lines and bright colors. A note was scribbled in childish handwriting. "Thank you, Mr. Guard," he smiled. A real one this time, unguarded and warm. "Royal guards are more than ceremonial," he mused aloud, tracing the drawing with his finger. "We undergo intense military training, months of drills, combat prep, observation skills. But today, it was about something else." Eliza nodded. "You did good, Reed. Protocol's important, but so is this." He tucked the drawing into his locker, a keepsake beside his daughter's photo. It was a reminder that even in rigid roles, humanity could shine through, a soft moral etched into his memory. The Harpers left the Citadel hand in hand, Clara chattering about her knight. "He saw me, Mummy," she said, "even when I was scared." Ellen squeezed her hand. "Sometimes, Clara, the bravest people are the ones who help quietly." Back home, the story became a family legend. How a guard's small act turned a frightening day into one of wonder. And for Thomas, it was a day he'd never forget. A bridge between duty and compassion. What a tale of courage and kindness. Have you ever seen a royal guard break formation for something unexpected? Or been in a moment where a stranger's help changed everything? Tell us in the comments below. We love hearing your stories. If this moved you, smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss more heart-pounding tales. Share this with your friends. Let's spread the inspiration. Next up, watch the story of the tourist who went too far with a prank on a royal guard, and the shocking twist that followed. You won't believe what happens. Stick around and let us know. What would you have done in Guardsman Reed's boots? Drop your thoughts below, and we'll see you in the next one.